Hello, everyone, and welcome to the workshop on Scopus for scholarly output analysis. Today's presentation is going to be talking about using the Scopus database for scholars to analyze their scholarly output or that of potential future co-authors, graduate students for an understanding of the scholarly publishing landscape, and administrators and administrative assistants who are looking to analyze the output of their department or college. Now, right now, we are on the library's homepage here. And to get to Scopus, to do any of this, we are going to scroll down a little ways and go to databases right here. From there, we go to the S's and go to Scopus. Now, one thing you're going to want to do when you use Scopus is to make a free account, which you can do by going to create account. I am just going to go ahead and sign in as I already have an account. If I can remember the right password at least. Here we go. Now, there are a number of different modules within Scopus. I'm going to start off by showing the sources feature, which will be of particular note for faculty and graduate students who are looking for places to publish. You can search in Scopus for sources either by subject area or title, notably. You can also search by publisher or ISSN, although it is unlikely that you will need to do so. For example, if we search for physics and astronomy and apply that search, we then have our results list here with some basic information such as the title, site score, which I'll explain shortly, and ranking within the subject category. There are also a number of options on the left, letting you limit to only the highest rated or by source type. In addition, there are links to the Florida Tech Full Text Finder, letting you access the journal itself. By clicking on the title, we bring up some more information, including the years of coverage that Scopus has for that particular journal. Notably, Scopus is an indexing database, which means that it does not host the actual articles in Scopus itself, although many of the articles are available through other databases in the library, which again, you can access through the full text finder. What Scopus does do is collect information about all of the articles that the journal has published, so that we get a better understanding of its place in the scholarly literature. Now, an example of how that works is this site score down here. You may have heard of the journal impact factor from Web of Science and Clarivate. The site score is Scopus's equivalent of that. And as you can see from here, it is acquired by taking the number of citations in a given time period, in this case 3 years, and dividing it by the number of documents in that time, which comes out to an average of the number of times documents were cited in that time period. Now, the only real difference between Scopus and Web of Science in their site score and journal impact factor is that site score uses a 3-year period as opposed to Web of Science's 2 years. I personally like this as it means that there is a bit less variance from one really good year or one really bad year. Now, that said, okay, it looks like this is a pretty impressive journal. It's got 86.5 citations per document. That sounds good, I guess. And in fact, it really is good. But if you are looking at something in a field that you're not intimately familiar with, it may be hard to tell. That is where something up here comes in handy, and I'd like to draw your attention to this thing that's called the SNP, and that stands for Source Normalized Impact per Paper. And as you might be aware from the use of the word normalized in there, if you are a math person, this is based around the number 1. So a journal that gets an average number of citations per article will have a SNP score of 1. One that is below average will be below 1. And one that's rather impressive like this one will have something like this 16.5, meaning that the articles in there are cited 16.5 times as the average. Now, the other reason I like this SNP score is the average of what? Well, in this case, it is actually only being compared with other resources in its subject area of general physics and astronomy. And this is important because different disciplines have different citation practices. So it's not very meaningful to compare the citation score from, say, this reviews of modern physics with something from the humanities, which will have generally a lower average number of citations per article, or even from different areas of the sciences. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, in addition to this sources module, there's also an affiliation search, which lets us look at different institutions, allowing us to analyze the output of our institution, as well as comparing it with other institutions of similar size. So we'll just go ahead and bring up the Florida Institute of Technology. And here we can see a brief overview of the scholarly output that has been recorded in Scopus. We can see that they have indexed 10,684 articles, and they are broken down in these different subject areas. Unsurprisingly, Florida Tech, being a STEM institution, has a very large number of engineering articles that have been published, followed quite quickly by physics and astronomy, appropriate since we are here on the Space Coast. I see that the mathematics department has also been doing a very impressive job, so good work to them. Now, we have here an authors list as well, letting us view the total authors who have published from Florida Tech with just a click. Notably, there is this save to author list. I do not recommend using this one here, as it actually has an upper limit of 2,000 authors. So this 2,700 will go over that limit. What we can do, however, is click on either that authors list to bring up the list of authors, or we can click on the documents to bring up the full list of documents published by Florida Tech authors. And it gives us the same kind of information we would expect to see in a normal database. So we've got the title, the authors, where it was published, and the year, all that good stuff. It also, you'll note, includes this cited by field, which allows us to see all of the articles that have cited it with just a click. In addition, there are these limiters on the left-hand side, which allow us to, as the name says, limit the results that we get by any number of different features here, notably year and subject area, among others. So if, for example, I just want to see the most recent articles, I can click 2022 and limit to. And that will allow me to restrict it to the newest articles published by Florida Tech. Now, you will notice that many of these in the newest year have this article in press. That means that while these articles have been accepted for publication and have been uploaded online, they have not yet been formally included in an issue and volume of a journal. That said, most of them can still be found through the full text finder. And one thing, but just before I move on, that I just want to point out, because I absolutely love this, you'll notice that we do have 23 of our 63 new articles for the year published in open access. So way to go, Florida Tech, making that scholarly output available to everyone. If we click on one of these article titles, we bring up some more information about the authors. We see, where they are from. So we have ours along with the people they collaborated with, as well as the abstract, and of course the references that they cited. One thing I do want to point out here that I think a lot of our faculty will find very interesting to know about is this cited by. Now, as a newer document, this doesn't have any citations yet, but it does have this set citation alert, which allows you to make an email alert that will let you know whenever that article is cited. So you'll be able to find out when your research is being used, which I think is a very nice thing to know about. We can all agree. Now, I just wanted to bring that up. In addition, we also have the ability to search for individual authors, which can be useful for looking at information about potential co-authors or about your own scholarly output. So let's go ahead and just try searching for little Mark Barmond here. And here we see, just again, a quick rundown. We've got name, we have documents, many documents, and H-index, affiliation, and of course, where we're at. Now, one thing I do want to bring up here is you will notice that there are several different ways his name is listed here. And of course, for those of you who have published, you are aware that every journal has its own requirements for how an author's name is listed in a journal. The graduate students out there might not be aware of that, but believe me, you will get used to the many, many different formats that journals require. And as a result of this, however, there can be a little bit of confusion about whether someone, two authors that are listed in different journals are in fact the same author or not. So here we have Mark M. Barmond, M. Barmond, M. Barmond, Mark M. Barmond. Again, I'm not even sure why it's got that in there separately. Now, it's but in this case, it looks like it managed to put all of those correctly into his, into his profile here, which is good. But we may want to double check just to make sure that there's not anything that is kind of straying. So what we'll do here is we'll put in the first initial and an asterisk here, which is the wildcard operator for Scopus, letting it know that we want anything that starts with an M there in our results. We do that. And okay, the first result's that one that we looked at before. The second one is M. Mohammadi Barmond, who is clearly someone different, who works at Stony Brook University. But then we have an M. Barmond here with 3 documents, and it's Florida Tech. So it looks like somehow he got separated. This part got separated. If we click on that, we can see the journals, and it looks like those are mostly new ones that have not yet been wrapped into his profile. That said, if he were to get on here, he could accelerate the process of getting everything in the right place by clicking either Edit Profile or Potential Author Matches, which you'll see brings up a list of different author profiles that it thinks might be the same. And of course, you can then go there, get some more information. And once you've determined that they are the same, you can click both and click Request to Merge. Now, I'm not going to do that because if I do, it will pop up a thing saying, are you really this person? And I am not him. So that's something to look out for there. Now, while we're in here, let's take a quick look at the author profile. You'll note that, of course, it includes the basic information that I was talking about before, what institution he's with, It also has this Scopus identifier, which is a unique number given to each Scopus profile, as well as this ORCID ID, which is a little redundant because the ID already stands for the ORCID ID, and ORCID already stands for ID, but oh well. Anyway, for those of you who are not familiar, this is a unique profile that you can set up for yourself, and it will give you a number, that ID I was talking about, that you can then submit with all of your publications, which will automatically let the journals know, okay, this is who you are. And that way, when Scopus is gathering up the information, when Web of Science is gathering up the information, they know which profile to put it on so that you get credit for your work. And it's real easy to set up. You just go to orchid.org, make an account, fill in your information, and you're good to go. Then you just include that number whenever you publish a new journal article. Now, in addition, it has that H-index I mentioned. For those of you who are not familiar, H-index is an author level metric as opposed to the journal level metrics of the site score, SNP, and journal impact factor. The H-index is specifically meant to measure the scholarly output of an author. Now, it sounds more complicated than it is, so I'm going to explain it. It is the number of articles that have been cited at least that many times. So in this case, it means that this author has 111 articles that have each been cited 111 times. Someone with the H-index score of 16 has 16 articles that have been cited 16 times. Now, if you want to keep track of another author, or just to see when things are put in here for yourself, or want to know when the scholars and researchers in your department publish something, you can actually click this Set Alert button here, and it will create email alerts that will let you know when a new document is added to this profile. This can be very useful for keeping track of the institution's total output. And also just to let you know when your own research has become searchable. For individual authors, again, the author citation alert might be a bit more useful. Just letting you know when that author is cited. Okay. Now, let's see, one more thing to mention briefly, and that is that in addition to these generic setting alerts by the click of a button, you can also, if you are so inclined, use this advanced search here to make some more complicated searches. You can use author to add the author and include their information, as well as a number of other features in here. And when might you want to do this? Well, an example that I made myself using this was for the example of if, for example, the APSS wanted to have a search that showed the total output of all of the department, as for authors who have been working there. They might include this search from Dr. Lingham, where since he joined the institution in 2019, we would not want to include his earlier works in what we consider to have been done by Florida Tech. So just a thing to keep in mind there. And you can combine these all together, as I did in this older search of mine here before the alerts feature was really as developed, where I had all of civil and mechanical engineering put together into one search combined with OR. So just a thing to watch out for that you can do if you want to do some more complicated searching. Oh yes, and speaking of more complicated searching, one other thing you can do in the results for the institution search, you can select individual articles and then export that as a CSV file so that you can manipulate it in Excel to, to your heart's content, getting a bit more data out of it than is immediately available in here. That is all I have for you at the moment. If you are in need of more assistance, you can reach out to me at the library. My email address is wbowman@fit.edu.